So first, Dr. Wahls, congratulations on the
Thank you.
award. I know it's the biggest
you.
award in functional medicine and so well deserved. Coming all the way from your own personal story to now touching the lives of millions of other people. So I know that MS was your particular diagnosis. How do you feel that MS relates to all the other autoimmune diseases that have been discussed this weekend?
You know, it's just another variation. We need to address the root causes of why the immune system becomes dysfunctional, and so it's just another one of the many common causes for severe disability related to autoimmunity.
So more in common than
Far
different.
more in common, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, in that regard, you know, one of the things I'd love to get into, I know a lot of people on the Functional Forum have heard your story before, but now in the last few years, it's been about how do we reproduce this and at scale.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that you've learned along the way and how to reproduce this individually for clinicians and some of the other ways you've been doing it?
Well, in my clinical practice for years, I was at the VA and we ran this in terms of group classes, and that was very, very effective. That way you could reach out, identify clinicians that want to refer to you, interested patients, and put them together, because there was only me initially. That expanded the group considerably. And now I have a small private practice, again, reaching out to subspecialists who are wanting to refer patients who are interested in a diet and lifestyle approach, so you can get the right people who are willing to go on this journey with you.
And what are some of the value of the group dynamics?
What I love about the group dynamics is the peer-to-peer coaching and teaching that happens. You know, we can give them the information, but helping them understand how they do it in their life, how they can do it with other farmers, other small town folks who are trying to figure out, how do I get this food in my local Hy-Vee, my local grocery store? How do I do this socially with other friends? That peer-to-peer connection is so useful, because with any health behavior change, it's about adopting and sustaining these health behaviors, and peer-to-peer is far more effective.
Yeah, and what have you found with, I know, you know, making dietary changes is not as simple as just one change. It can be learning to cook, it can be a lot of things that have to happen. What are the ways that you found to sort of stimulate that in groups?
So group cooking classes are very helpful, doing cooking demonstrations, serving them examples of the food, taking them out on a group shopping expedition, learning about shopping. So these kinds of skills very helpful, going to a restaurant, modeling how you order food, chat with your wait staff, how to select what restaurant, how to, in a group, talk about and practice calling your friends, your family, to discuss your dietary needs or strategies to bring the food to your social gatherings.
It's such a big point, because I think that a lot of people, when they end up facing the fact that they're going to have to make these changes, end up like slightly socially isolated because they can't eat all the fun things.
That's right. We have to teach them how to reimagine these social encounters, and how, because we don't want them to become isolated and lonely, because that's an adverse health risk as well.
Absolutely. So what would be some of your, you know, we've been collecting 1-minute tips from practitioners who have been hearing things at the during the lectures. You know, for practitioners out there who are like, you know, they've either experienced themselves or in patients that they can reverse autoimmune disease with functional medicine approaches. What are some of the top tips that you have for our community at home to replicate your work with MS, but more generally with autoimmune?
You really want to help people connect it to their purpose. So what is their life mission? What is their life purpose? What do they want their health for? So they're wanting to do the work, and then identify a health coach in your community to help with that behavioral change.
So health coaches are strong for you?
Are very helpful. Are very helpful. I begin to have that conversation. What do you want your health for? Do they have a life purpose, a life mission? And then I can relate the reason to go on this journey as to their mission, their purpose.
When does that purpose add the most value? Is it when patients get sort of stuck at the first hurdle or the second hurdle?
Most value in your first visit with them. Wow. What do they want their health for? As part of that relationship building, that connection with them, so they're willing to go on that journey with you.
And have you found that that's something that people are willing to share in a group environment?
Yes, you know, actually it's our most popular class is the life purpose, what you want your health for.
Absolutely, yeah. I think so many clinicians and practitioners have told us that, you know, connecting patients to purpose helps them, you know, sort of keep momentum through the training protocol, especially when the changes can be overwhelming.
The changes are very hard. Think about the last time you had a health behavior, a bad habit you wanted to break. That was not an easy task.
No.
Or a new health habit you wanted to acquire.
Yeah.
That's also not an easy task. And I think we have to be humble as we reflect on our own lives, how challenging that is. And we're asking our patients to do something every bit as hard. So having a coach, having a process, having a purpose really makes that far, far easier.
Absolutely, yeah. We've talked a lot about coaching, community, and content as the sort of the 3 C's that need to happen sort of outside of the clinic. And you obviously got the Wahls Protocol, the book. I mean, that's a great compendium. And then having these groups and communities and coaching, putting it all together.
Right.
That, one of the things I'd love to, I know the last time you spoke at the Functional Forum, you talked about sort of this journey from being kind of unaccepted, your work in the VA, to now being, more accepted. And then other health systems really looking at this and going, wow, like this seems to be working at scale. How do you see your work making it into the larger health systems at the moment and in the future?
So right now, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, if you look back at my experience with them in 2009, I was banned for creating false hope. But in 2016, they awarded $1.5 million to my lab to study a parallel group design, a research project looking at the Wahls diet. That's a very rapid period change. So change is happening, it is being accepted. You've certainly seen more neurologists getting on board with diet and lifestyle as being really important, and that diet needs to be studied. And in fact, we're also hearing from more neurologists that they are referring patients to us and to dietitians to learn about the Wahls diet. So it is happening, it will continue to happen, it will continue to happen at ever faster rates.
So it's funny that you mention neurologists, because about 5 years ago when I lived in New York, I decided to go and have a beer with someone who I would consider an internet troll of my website, and he would come on and write very angry remarks about things, and I found out he was a neurologist. And in the conversation it came up, we had a lot in common, as it turned out. But one of his frustrations was that he would have patients that would come in sort of expecting that he was capable of reversing MS because they had read the book or otherwise. And I think maybe it really came from a sort of a knowledge deficit in a certain way, that he didn't really know what to do. And I would love to get your thoughts on that, because it's evolving so quickly that now I'm so glad to hear neurologists are coming on board.
So some people are excited. They want to implement the protocol, and then they experience fatigue reduction, cognitive improvement, mood improvement, but they still have motor deficits, and they're upset and angry and frustrated. And motor takes a lot longer. It takes a lot of physical work. It takes some training. People may or may not be willing to do that. And so in my practice, I try to talk about what their goals, what their expectations are, and lay out that the cognitive mood comes quickly, motor comes much more slowly, a lot of work, and a lot more time. It can happen, but it is a much slower process.
And what are the things that help in that part of the journey, particularly the motor? Are there other practitioners that a functional medicine provider needs to bring in to help there?
Physical therapy, occupational therapy, depending on the circumstances, neuromuscular electrical stimulation might be helpful, physical rehab, a weight suspended gait training device. So all of that could be helpful.
Awesome. One of the things that I wanted to just share as being an inspiration for us is the creation of groups. And we just see that with all of what you've shared of how powerful the group dynamic is. It seems to me that if we could create groups of patients with similar diagnoses in cities and towns all across the country and share this content into that community, we could get far more people ending up in functional medicine doctors' offices where they have a chance of that coming together. One of the things I remember you saying is just how much of a difference it makes that, how credible someone who's had reversal is compared to a physician. And, I'd love to just see how you see that sort of growing now that you have some more flexibility in private practice.
So, I certainly have in the internet, social media platforms, we have thousands and hundreds of thousands of followers. So there are those vehicles that are out there. There'll no doubt be more entrepreneurs who will figure that out. We've created membership programs and some online interactive support to provide more access for people who are wanting to have more support virtually. So that's an area that we're exploring to see what other additional remote products can we create to provide greater support. And I think there are more functional medicine practitioners, and we're also thinking about, from an entrepreneur side, what could we do virtually to help create this community and provide support in a way that is sustainable for us and the community.
What part of the protocol that you're recommending is only to be done by the functional medicine doctor, credentialed labs, and what part of it is done by like a sort of health coach or ancillary sort of other provider?
Well, the health behavior. So you've already prescribed the diet. Now the question is, how do I operationalize that into my life and begin to make these specific changes, learning how to cook. Making these changes in my stress reduction habits. Health coach can do that. Primary care, how do I, as I implement this stuff and adjust my blood pressure meds, my mood medication, my diabetic meds, primary care can do that. How's my homocysteine? Primary care could do that. If I'm still not getting the results that I'm looking for based on the kind of guidance that I have in the Wahls protocol, and you've optimized the homocysteine, optimized the vitamin D, optimized your insulin, then finding a dietitian who could help you assess how really reliable are you with implementing the diet, finding a functional medicine doc who may need to investigate further nutritional status or microbiome status. So I, in my book, I try to provide tiered levels of what kind of professional help you need, and at what point do you need to go to a primary care doc or a functional medicine doc who can do more comprehensive of that.
So I know that there's a lot of great thinkers here at this conference, and probably people that you've learned from as you go along. What are some of the things that you've learned this conference?
So far this morning we've been talking a lot about the microbiome. And an interesting point is the load of the fungus in the microbiome and the virus in the microbiome is just beginning to be understood. I think there's a whole lot more for us to learn there, and we're also just beginning to understand what the role of the helminth is and the protozoans. So I'll be really very excited to see that research evolve. And
now that you have tell us a little bit about your own practice situation, because I know that you're not the VA and now working in private practice. What does that look like?
So half time I'm doing my research. 1 day a week I'm doing my own private practice, which is a concierge practice. We give people 6 months worth of support, initial intake, and then group visits after that. Yep. And then I have another day a week where I'm devoted to developing the Wahls protocol seminar, where people come learn about the protocol for me for 3 days, and I teach clinicians how to implement and utilize the protocol as part of their practice. So we've been growing that. We've got people coming in from all over the globe.
Yeah, is there a particular part of the world where this seems to have really caught on outside of obviously America and Iowa?
Well, Canada is very big.
Yeah.
UK is very big, and I also seem to have a lot of followers in Australia. So we have a number of folks coming over from Australia as well.
That's wonderful. Well, Dr. Wahls, I really want to just, again, congratulate you for winning the award. But more than that, when you came on to our Practice Accelerator a few years ago and gave the lecture about doing the groups,
yes,
it actually inspired a number of the people in the groups to really start to think about what are the parts of the functional medicine process that take a lot of time. And one of the things that came up was the intaking, getting people into that. And we've seen the group intake concept start to take off. And it's really started to save so much time for clinicians, give people a taste of functional medicine for a low cost, give them opportunities to start implement the right diet for them and to move forward. And I would say, it's been wonderful to see that, transform.
That was a very, very effective tool for us at the VA, that group intake. That worked out very, very well.
All right, so we've been here with Dr. Terry Wahls. We've been here at the Functional Forum, winner of the 2018 Linus Pauling Award. Thanks so much for being part of the Functional Forum again.